Some games just have that special something where you can lose track of time, right? No pressure to perform, no looming deadlines, just you, the game world, and a whole lot of relaxing tasks to chip away at. It's not about winning or completing anything fast. It's about the quiet satisfaction of building, exploring, and creating at your own pace. Whether you're farming, managing an empire, or even just decorating, these games are the perfect way to unwind for hours without feeling like you have to rush or grind to enjoy them. Let me show you some of the games that you can play for hundreds of hours without too much stress. Let's start this list with Deep Rock Galactic. There's something almost hypnotic about Deep Rock Galactic. It's not necessarily the faster-paced, high-stress kind of shooter. You're a space dwarf, bouncing around in a co-op first-person environment that's more about slicing into massive veins of minerals and navigating procedurally generated caves than stressing over intense firefights. The dynamic is just soothing, like the game lets you do your thing. Now, the standout here is how every mission feels like it's just the right length. They're typically around 20 to 40 minutes, making them great if you're looking for a game where you can kind of dive in, chill with some friends, and listen to the terrain scanner beep while you dig your way through endless rock walls. On easier difficulties, there's no massive penalty for mistakes, so you aren't anxiously watching your every move. The terrain destruction is truly satisfying. It's like Space Minecraft, but with a bit more structure. Team coordination is encouraged, but it never pushes you too hard. Each dwarf has these roles that naturally balance each other without micromanaging. You get rewarded for teamwork without feeling forced into it. You're making constant progress too. Even if you lose a mission, you still take home a chunk of the minerals you mined. That small bit of progress goes a long way. Hundreds of hours pass, and it doesn't depend so much on grinding, though you can if you want to, but more on just enjoying the experience.
Skeptical of our intentions, but that's fair. We need to be patient. They're teaching us how to survive in this place.
Up next is Guild Wars 2. Alright, so you've probably heard about MMOs having a grind. You know, get the best loot, level up, raid for hours. Well, Guild Wars 2 does that thing differently. It's about freedom, like you could log in, see the world, and just exist. Instead of punishing you for missing dailies or not keeping up with seasonal events, it gives you space to play your way. The big open world events scale with how many players are around, meaning that even casual players can jump into massive fights without stressing over checking guides or doing elite rotations. It's kind of perfect for someone who likes diving in and out of big content pieces without needing to plan so much. And let's talk about leveling. You can explore, craft, or even spend time collecting. Every zone you enter is relevant because of how the game's scaling system works. It makes the whole world feel alive, like regions you'd think would be irrelevant at higher levels still have reasons to visit. It's like the game respects your time and doesn't rush you towards some endgame finish line. The Living World episodes add layers on top, constantly delivering fresh content, but in a way where it never feels like things are leaving you behind. You can jump in after weeks away, and it's like asking yourself what adventure you're starting today. That flexibility and the focus on choice make Guild Wars 2 an MMO that centers more on enjoying the moment. Next up, we have Slay the Spire. Roguelites can sometimes feel punishing. You make a mistake, get wiped, and start all over. Slay the Spire doesn't avoid that, but something about its design lets you relax into the learning curve. Maybe it's because every run feels like a story you're piecing together with the cards you get, rather than a grind to beat something. You start with a weak deck, and through careful decisions, you basically craft your own strategy as you play. So it always feels fresh. New relics, cards, encounters. It's like building a puzzle from scratch every game. And since no two runs are the same, it's easy to lose hours being, just one click away from seeing how far you can go. The pacing is slow, methodical, there's room to think between turns, so it's free from that anxious energy some deck builders can have. It's less about speed and more about careful moves. Putting a card down here, gaining some armor there. That kind of thing, Finding the right combinations honestly becomes this satisfying reward in itself. And with roguelites, sometimes there's this need to pressure yourself into doing better. But in Slay the Spire, a loss often feels like an experiment gone wrong, like something that teaches you for next time. Between characters and unlocking so many relics, cards as you go, there's absolutely endless possibility in terms of what works. And even when a run ends abruptly, there's this gentle draw to try again, to build a better set. Next on the list is Enshrouded. Sometimes when you think of survival games, your brain jumps to resource timers, hunger bars, and stress everywhere. What's cool about Enshrouded, though, is how it takes that whole mechanic and slows it down. It leans heavy into the vibe of take your time, build your world, and survival is just there in the background, almost cozy. Finding materials for upgrading your gear or home base feels like a journey, not a grind, and it's got that kind of peacefulness you only get when slowly expanding your homestead. Exploring fog-covered lands, getting lost, then finding your way out, it almost feels more like an adventure than survival. The building? That's where Enshrouded stands out. You're out there cutting down trees, gathering stone, and then there's this creative mode that kicks in, letting you design in ways that don't feel limited. You get to make something that feels truly your own and not rushed. Sure, the world has threats, but it's the kind of pacing where nothing feels like it's constantly breathing down your neck. You plan, gather, design. There's this meditative rhythm to how you can shape the space around you at your own pace. And that balance between exploration, construction, and combat makes it feel just right. You're never stuck doing only one thing, and that variety keeps it lighthearted. Testing battle mechanics 1 minute, rearranging furniture the next, it's the mix of survival and creative freedom that ends up giving you so many relaxed hours of play. Up next, we have Tavern Master. Now, Tavern Master is one of those hidden gems that just keeps you hooked, especially if you're into management games that don't stress you out. It's easygoing fun, where you're running, you guessed it, a tavern. Thing is, it's not about micromanaging every little detail, unless you want to. It lets you play at your own pace, and that's where it shines. You could spend hours just setting up the perfect arrangement for tables, decorations, hiring staff, and watching your tavern slowly come to life. The satisfaction here comes from seeing things roll out smoothly, not in firefighting disasters. Especially with the gradual unlocks of new features and rooms, like building a kitchen or upgrading to offer luxury items, you always have small goals to work toward, without feeling overwhelmed. Customers are simple, and unlike more complex sims, Tavern Master never throws curveballs at you. You decide what to expand and when. And the visuals? They're cozy. It's got this aesthetic where everything feels warm and inviting, almost like a stress-free version of something more intense. You can even let your tavern run on its own while you tinker with details, and it's those quiet moments that make the game ideal for unwinding while still feeling productive. It's not about everything being perfect, it's about finding joy in the little things, like stocking up on mead for your medieval patrons and seeing your place grow slowly into a bustling hub. Next up is Palia. Now, for a game like Palia, the whole vibe immediately draws you in. It's a peaceful MMO with a huge focus on community and social interaction, versus combat or rushing through levels. It's free to play, but skips the usual grindy MMO setups. Instead, it's about living in a world full of chill activities. You're growing gardens, decorating homes, hanging out with NPCs, and exploring these beautiful environments, all while connecting with other players casually, not competitively. The more you fish, cook, or craft, the more activities open up, but it's the kind of progression that feels rewarding without demanding hours of focus. And because Palia has a slower pace, you're just living in this world rather than conquering it. You could spend hours crafting the perfect furniture for your home or gathering materials at your own speed. The game has this kind of Animal Crossing energy, where you're improving your space, but it's never about racing to get the biggest house or the most resources as fast as possible. Plus, the art style is so warm and welcoming. Even though it's an MMO, it feels more like a relaxing social sim that lets you step back from high-pressure systems. There's something about the combination of gentle exploration and some lighthearted friendships, with both players and NPCs, that keeps you smiling throughout. Coming up next is No Man's Sky. Talking about No Man's Sky in 2024 is a totally different thing than it was a few years ago. The updates have turned it into this vast, unending space of exploration, where the sheer scale of it alone can feel peaceful. Cruising through multicolored galaxies, landing on alien planets, just discovering. You could honestly lose hundreds of hours just wandering from one place to another, cataloging creatures, naming stuff, building bases. It almost turns into its own Zen experience after a while. That's the beauty of it. You're not rushed to plot your course or build the most efficient base as quickly as possible. You're just existing out there, charting your path. And building these elaborate bases across different planets is low stress, giving you room to experiment. Structures come together effortlessly, and there's no pressure from constant enemies or ticking clocks. And with the updates, you now have tons of stuff to do, from underwater exploration to piloting massive freighters. No Man's Sky has become this kind of gamer's playground, where the goals are yours to decide. The procedural generation means there's always something new, and discovering a serene corner of the universe you can chill in for hours feels pretty rewarding. You're not just exploring, you're immersing yourself in the entire galaxy however you want. Kerbal Space Program. Now, you'd think a game about rocket science would be total chaos, but Kerbal Space Program gives you a sense of peaceful complexity. It seems intimidating at first, designing spacecraft and planning trajectories, but once you get into it, it's more of a sandbox of trial and error. And those little Kerbals don't seem to mind too much when your spacecraft doesn't quite make it to the moon on the first attempt. This is the kind of game where hours will slip by as you tinker with your ship designs and figure out how to even get into orbit. And that's the relaxing part. Building, testing, tweaking. It's got a kind of puzzle-solving feel to it, where you keep changing variables and seeing if things just work. Real-world physics are at play, but you learn by experiencing it over time rather than through high-pressure missions. There's this satisfaction that comes from small wins. The first time your rocket doesn't explode on the launch pad, or the moment you realize you've successfully navigated a satellite into orbit. The game doesn't rush you to develop massive, complex ships or hit certain milestones. You're free to switch gears and focus on whatever you want to experiment with next. Failures are more like lessons, and when nothing's on the line other than watching the Kerbals bounce around during a crash landing, it's easy to keep going for hours.
They'll probably hang you, buddy.
Red Dead Redemption 2. So Red Dead Redemption 2 might be this huge cinematic experience filled with complex storylines and intense moments, but there's a side to it that's pure laid-back immersion. You can easily spend hundreds of hours just exploring the vast open world and doing absolutely nothing story-related. There's this rhythm to it, the way you can stroll into town, brew a cup of coffee at your campsite, or fish along a quiet riverbank while the sun sets. It pulls you into a world where even the smallest moments feel rich and atmospheric. The world feels alive, but it doesn't push you. You could spend days tending to your horse, hunting for legendary animals, refining your outfits, cooking, or even just watching the wildlife go about their day. It's the kind of game where you don't feel rushed to complete quests or climb skill trees. Whether you're wandering through forests, camping beneath the stars, or listening to the banter of NPCs at the saloon, you're just kind of there, soaking it all in. Rockstar added all these tiny details that make simple activities a pleasure. Even riding across the map doesn't feel like a grind because every step of the journey looks so stunning. You're living life as an outlaw at your own pace, digging into this meticulously crafted world that somehow feels like it's yours to carve out an existence in. Stress rarely enters the picture, especially when the world encourages you to take your time.
Wake up, Link.
Next up is The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. Breath of the Wild flips the usual Zelda formula on its head in the best way, giving players complete autonomy to explore this massive world. It's not just about dungeons and bosses, it's about the little discoveries you stumble upon while wandering Hyrule. Hundreds of hours could easily slip by as you hop between shrines, scale mountains, and cook up hilarious dishes that don't always work out. The relaxed vibe isn't from a lack of content, it's in how the game leaves things wide open for you. Everything in Breath of the Wild feels freeform. From using the physics engine to solve problems creatively to just paragliding over vast plains and deserts, it's all structured to be a seamless journey. Combat's there, sure, but it's never forced down your throat. Don't feel like fighting a bunch of bokoblins. You can sneak around, find a different path, or spend your time gathering herbs for a self-made pocket feast. And then there's the sheer amount of nature-driven beauty, like finding a serene lake, watching deer graze, and practically hearing the world breathe. The game invites exploration without marking every point of interest on your map. Each rock, tree, or cliffside could host a Korok seed or some hidden little secret. It's a progression that never rushes you, where hours spent simply tossing bombs into enemy camps or gliding between cliffs feel just as meaningful as taking on the divine beasts. Coming up next is Core Keeper. If you're into games that feel like one big, relaxed underground adventure, Core Keeper hits the sweet spot. It blends elements of crafting, exploration, and survival in a way that prioritizes peaceful progression over high-stakes challenges. You dig, you build, you gather, and those activities alone can keep you entertained for ages without any of the usual survival game anxiety. It's really just a game about discovery, and Core Keeper knows how to make that feel rewarding without the pressure. Knocking down walls and uncovering hidden caves or abandoned ruins creates this sense of constant discovery. You can spend hours slowly expanding your underground base, growing crops for food, upgrading tools from what you've scavenged from mysterious caverns. Every task you do feeds into the next one, so it feels more like an ongoing project than a chore. And when you head back to your carefully lit base to cook up the food you foraged, it's like this cool, slow-building progression that's both peaceful and gratifying. The multiplayer mode makes Core Keeper even better for unwinding with friends. Everyone's digging through tunnels, planting crops, or stumbling upon new gear without a rush to defeat bosses or win anything. There's this Minecraft-esque feel, but with a scaled-back pace and tighter focus on expansion at your own speed. Layered progression, random discoveries, and world building make this underground sandbox an easy way to spend endless hours with minimal stress. Tropico 6. When it comes to city builders, Tropico 6 manages to offer endless hours of managing without the stress that usually comes with balancing city grids, traffic control, or endless disasters. That's because in Tropico, you're not running just any city. You're managing a whole island nation as El Presidente. It's got all the depth of a political simulation, but everything comes with a humorous, laid-back twist. You can plot out grand plans for your tropical paradise, from building infrastructure to handling trade, but it never feels overwhelming. The game encourages you to be creative, letting you balance between making your citizens happy and keeping your personal Swiss bank account fat. And here's the thing, disasters and setbacks don't really feel punishing. They're more like opportunities to try something new. Didn't nail that election? Just rig it. Can't fix the economy. Focus on tourism. Every challenge feels fun, not like a problem you need to solve immediately. The pacing is slow enough to let you savor the building process. You can spend hours tweaking your island, setting up trade routes, renovating historical landmarks, and watching your island grow, all without pressure. Just expand roads, drop hotels on the beach, and toss a few orders to stay in power. It's all about relaxed control. Plus, the vibrant tone and satire create an often comedic backdrop to the hours you'll sink into it. Coming up next is the Nintendo exclusive Animal Crossing. If this game teaches you one thing, it's how to slow down. The game doesn't just tolerate leisurely play, it encourages it. From the moment you arrive at your deserted island, it's all about taking your time to build your perfect little paradise. There's no rush to collect resources, no pressing need to complete tasks quickly, and certainly no pressure to keep up with anyone else's progress. It's about doing things at your own pace. Whether you spend hours reorganizing your home, arranging flowers in your garden, or chatting with one of the quirky island villagers, every action feels like a personal victory, not a checklist to check off. The game operates in real time, which means time itself is a huge part of the experience. You log in and trees you planted days ago have grown, new fish arrive with the changing seasons, and your landscape continues to progress naturally. It's not just a world to interact with, it evolves right along with you. Construction in Animal Crossing is slow and deliberate. You place furniture, fences, and paths with care, shaping your island one tiny detail at a time. Everything about this game feels soft. The soundtrack, the visuals, fishing at sunset, decorating your house with just the right vibe. There's no grand quest to defeat some villain or save the world. It's personal, stress-free ambition. Spend an entire evening rearranging your furniture, or digging for fossils, or just sip morning coffee with Brewster at the cafe. It rewards the player with a sense of calm repetition, which is perfect if you're looking to escape for hours on end. Next on the list is Planet Zoo. Planet Zoo turns what could be stressful micromanagement into something that feels more like nurturing than managing. You get to build, design, and curate breathtaking zoos, but it's your pace. You can focus on building habitats, overseeing animal welfare, or just investing time into making your zoo look perfect. Watching animals roam inside massive enclosures you created, it feels more like you're taking care of them than just balancing stats or juggling management spreadsheets. What makes Planet Zoo perfect for sinking hours into without stress is the level of control you have over every detail. You aren't just building for efficiency or profits, you're crafting unique exhibits, adding water features, customizing trees, rocks, and pathways to make every section feel like its own biome. There's no ticking clock forcing you to rush. It allows for creativity to flow naturally. You're not just managing animals, you're building worlds for them to live in, and that's where the relaxed immersion comes in. Animal welfare systems are deep, but they're more slow burn projects than urgent problems. Even if one of your animals gets sick or an enclosure needs fixing, it gives you time to react. Plus, the sheer level of customization in building and decoration makes even the smallest tweaks feel satisfying. Whether you spend hours crafting intricate little feeding platforms or rearranging paths to maximize guest viewpoints. It's like a meditative sandbox where each small decision contributes to something bigger, yet at an easy, soothing pace. Slime Rancher 2. Slime Rancher 2 is the ultimate feel-good game hiding inside an adorable, bouncy sandbox. It's a sequel that took all the charm of the first game and expanded on it, while still maintaining that relaxed, laid-back vibe that keeps you in a constant state of zen. You're ranching little blobs of slime, collecting resources, and setting up pens on this colorful alien planet. And it's never about rushing or grinding. Everything happens at your own pace. The world is a rainbow of cuteness, and the slimes? Those are the stars of the show. Collecting them, feeding them, watching them bounce around, it's more joyful than stressful. Even the management aspect feels playful because the game doesn't weigh you down with complex mechanics or time pressures. You can focus on upgrading your farm, exploring new biomes, finding hidden areas, or just, hanging out with your favorite slimes. Expanding your ranch is a slow, rewarding process. Adding plots for crops or building bigger pens for your growing slime collection feels satisfying without the need to rush. And what's cool is that Slime Rancher 2 has a little exploration aspect with each new biome you discover, but it keeps that same ease the whole time. You can spend an afternoon in search of a rare slime, or simply chill at your farm tweaking your setup and feeding your slimes their favorite foods, all of which are low stakes. So yeah, it's kind of perfect for unwinding for hours. Up next is Astroneer. Astroneer takes you off to space, but in a way that feels more like a leisurely afternoon stroll than high-pressure astronaut survival. You land on these procedurally generated planets with the simplest of goals: explore, survive, and build whatever you want. The game strips back a lot of the complexity that might bog down other survival games and lets you dive right into crafting sprawling bases, gathering resources, and, most importantly, just enjoying the serene, open environments. There's zero sense of urgency as you explore. You kind of just wander, terraforming planets as you go and discovering neat little mining veins or mysterious structures. The visual design, all smooth, pastel-colored landscapes, along with a minimalist aesthetic, makes everything feel light and almost meditative. Navigating and reshaping the planet's terrain doesn't feel like work. It's more like sculpting, allowing you to build and experiment without always worrying if your oxygen's running low or your power sources are maxed out. Oh, and Astroneer's multiplayer mode makes it even more relaxing when paired with friends. Everyone slowly crafting bases or adventure walking through tethers to dig deeper into caves. It's the kind of game where you aimlessly explore, stumble upon a hidden cave system, and spend hours just gathering resources for your next big base expansion. The gentle pace means you can log in, grab some resources, tinker with your base, and suddenly realize an entire day's gone by without a lick of stress. Next up is Abzu. Abzu offers this extraordinary underwater experience that's less game and more interactive art piece. It's relaxing from the first moment you dive in. You're not racing against time, there are no enemies, and there's no need to strategize anything. You're simply swimming through beautifully crafted seascapes, exploring vibrant coral reefs, and unwinding as you flow with the underwater life surrounding you. This is the kind of game where you can spend hours just gliding beneath the water's surface, watching schools of fish move in synchronization, or exploring deeper caverns that hold ancient mysteries. The entire thing feels like a dream, the way you flow through the water, the soft ambient music, and that calm sense of exploration. It's all designed to be soothing. You're not collecting 100 items or solving complex puzzles. Instead, you're organically moving through an evolving world, one filled with wonder and peaceful moments. Pressing a button lets your character sing, which in turn attracts nearby aquatic life, and watching them react never gets old. It's simple, elegant, and meditative. There's also something about the lack of dialogue, the pure visual storytelling that makes Abzu special. It keeps your mind engaged, but in a calming way. Every new area feels like a small slice of wonder. Whether you're just swimming leisurely with a whale or discovering a hidden temple, it stretches those peaceful moments into something magical, making it perfect for losing hours without feeling stressed or rushed. Grow: Song of the Evertree. Now this game is all about finding that peaceful rhythm between world building and relaxation. You start off in this fading world, but as you nurture and restore things, it becomes vibrant and alive. Instead of pushing for quick results, the game gives you room to breathe. You tend to your tree, plant seeds, and watch the world evolve. It's not about rushing through each day. There's a gentle cadence to growing your environment, cultivating new plants and creatures, and seeing your village slowly transform alongside the tree. Exploration and grow is something that feels rewarding without being overwhelming. As you unlock new regions and create new biomes, there's always something new to uncover, but it's all at your pace. You can linger in a single area, decorating it just the way you envision, or focus on gentle tasks like helping out friendly villagers or unlocking new buildings. And it's accompanied by soothing music and soft visuals, making it a relaxing escape into nature and creativity. It lets you slow down, focus on each little detail, and craft a world that's uniquely yours. And that's the beauty here. There's no blame for skipping a day, no rush to maximize efficiency. The balance between farming, building, and exploring lets you enjoy a land that feels much more personal with every little thing you tend to. And that low-pressure approach is a big reason the game just sucks you in for hours on end. Next up, we have House Flipper. Ever feel like you want to take what's broken and make it new again? That's exactly what House Flipper lets you do. There's something oddly rewarding about starting with this house in total disrepair. You've got your grime-streaked walls, broken fixtures, and piles of garbage. Then, slowly, tiling up bathrooms, slapping on fresh coats of paint, and renovating each room into a functional living space. It never feels rushed, though. You can take your time picking out color schemes, rearranging furniture, or just meticulously scrubbing down a single room if you're in the mood. Unlike so many Sims that throw endless tasks your way, House Flipper keeps things simple and open. You pick your renovation projects. Whether it's flipping an entire home or just focusing on the backyard, the game lets you decide how much or how little you want to do. Want to spend hours picking out the perfect couch or tweaking wall placements? Go for it. Or maybe you just want a couple of quick jobs cleaning and repainting. Totally your choice. Each flip is like a little puzzle with no wrong answers, making it deeply satisfying without any pressure to finish fast. There's a quiet fulfillment in the process, whether you're scrubbing windows or redesigning layouts and seeing the transformation unfold. It's almost meditative, filling rooms with your touch, slowly watching chaos turn into comfort, all with no rush to finish anything unless you want to. This game is definitely one of the best choice to pick from this list. And to finally conclude our list, we have Sun Haven. Sun Haven brings together a cool mix of farming, crafting, and fantasy elements, but keeps everything low-key and peaceful. Think a little bit of Stardew Valley meets Rune Factory. You're planting crops, making friends, and shaping your new home, but you've also got this magical element running throughout, with spells and mythical creatures woven into everyday life. The town of Sun Haven is full of character, but it's never about pushing you to do things. You can spend all day mining for resources, tending to livestock, or chatting with villagers. There's always something to do, but nothing feels rushed or urgent. The world itself encourages a slow, enjoyable approach to exploration. You might take a day to wander through forests, casting spells, or upgrading your tools, and the next day you're working on your farm or decorating your house. The quest lines are there to guide you if you want, but it's fine if you just want to focus on improving your land, hanging out with NPCs, or even just fishing for half the day. The fantasy elements like flight and spells add this layer of whimsy, letting you explore in surprising ways without overcomplicating things. The seasons change, the world evolves, and quests move forward, but nothing is forcing you to follow any schedule. It hits that perfect balance of progression while letting you set the tempo, making Sun Haven a welcoming world to sink hours into without even noticing it. And that's it, folks. If any of these laid-back games caught your attention and you're ready to lose yourself in something that's just chill and fun, make sure to hit that like button. And if you're into more content like this, go ahead and subscribe so you don't miss out on future videos. As always, thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in the next video.